Welcome, and thank you all for coming to tonight's TEDx at LCJSMS event. Please take your seats for our event to begin. For tonight's speeches, our students have conducted research, organized interviews, and participated in volunteer work, all in an effort to follow the TEDx motto of having an idea worth spreading. Tonight, you will hear the ideas that we think are worth spreading as we dive into the topic, exploring perspectives, insights from the field. We hope you enjoy the variety of speeches from our presenters this year. Please sit back, relax, and welcome Soon-Min Perlman, presenting Outside the Box.
It is your first day back to school. It's lunch, and you're standing all alone in the cafeteria. Eager to find a seat, you try to find your friends from the previous school year to find a table. Yet, you quickly notice that your friend group from last year has split and are all sitting at tables of their own. Your friend from the second grade has made their way to the yoga pants table. The girl you met in your science class is now sporting an Alexander Hamilton shirt. And your BFF is conversing with the athletes who act like the gym class volleyball game is the Olympics. You are conflicted. On one hand, you enjoy participating in the school musical. But on the other, you're a part of the travel basketball team. These two passions are very important to you. But with the superficiality of school lunch tables, you feel pressure to conform to one table for the hope that you will be accepted to sit there from the first to the last day of the school year. The need to compromise our interests and personality to fit in is an unfortunate part of the school experience. A challenge success survey conducted in 2019 discovered that 1/3 of middle and high school students felt like they couldn't express themselves at school, nor that they felt included in their school community. When we feel outcast, we intuitively try to fit in. In my own journey to fit in to both of my cultural backgrounds, I interviewed my Korean uncle and went to a Jewish sleepaway camp. However, it was not until I spoke with the rabbi of my congregation when I discovered that both parts of my background could coexist in harmony. I realized throughout my search that I stripped my individuality and originality to belong. We owe it to ourselves to break free from broad and rigid communities and instead embrace our own distinct narrative. Before I started my search, I wanted to understand if and why community is universally important to everyone. After conducting research on the origins of Homo sapiens, I discovered that our desire to belong is not only psychological and emotional, but ingrained in our DNA. 2.5 million years ago, Homo sapiens originated from an ape-like ancestor. Many scientists and historians support the theory that 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens underwent the cognitive revolution. During the cognitive revolution, the brains of Homo sapiens became rounder, and the composition of their cerebellum changed, altering the way they facilitate movement, their physical coordination, and their ability to process language. Before the cognitive revolution, they were nomadic and traveled in small packs since they did not have the language capacity to communicate to a mass amount of people. After the cognitive revolution, they were able to express elaborate and fictional ideas, which provided them the ability to create common belief systems like religion. As sapiens became united under abstract faith and ideals, they formed societies through settlements. Their early settlements are equivalent to our everyday communities. In my own desire for community, I explored my Korean and Jewish background. Despite having a doljabi, a Korean ceremony on a child's first birthday, and a bat mitzvah, I have never felt a part of either community. I have always wanted to feel proud of my identity without doubting myself. I hope that by educating and forcing myself to interact with these communities, I would gain more security in my identity. My first step was to have a conversation with my uncle. My uncle works at the Korea Society, a nonprofit organization aimed to educate and bring attention to the positive relationship between the United States and South Korea. Since my uncle immerses himself with Korean culture every day at work, I thought that he would be the perfect candidate to talk to. However, I was wrong. I asked my uncle, "Do you identify with being Korean?" To which he flatly responded, "Being Korean is something that I'm born into." His response made it clear that he inherently felt a part of the Korean community. He was bewildered by all of my questions and the idea that Korean identity could be more complex than nationality or ethnicity. After conversing with my uncle, I felt defeated and discouraged. An experience I had over the summer then dawned on me. Last summer, I went to a Jewish sleepaway camp in Pennsylvania. I assumed that this would be a simple way of feeling more immersed and connected with the community. Once again, I was wrong. My bunkmates would ask me if I was Jewish, which I found strange since I seemed to be the only one suspected of not being. They would also try to dramatically assist me in reading Hebrew at prayer services, as if I was inept. All of this bothered me and made me feel like they're trying to humiliate me. Whether that is true or just my own insecurity, this experience was a reminder of another failed attempt to feel part of a community. Despite my lack of progress on my rocky journey, I was determined not to give up. I figured that my next step would be to visit the Jewish Museum in New York City. Similar to my conversation with my uncle, I wanted to become well-informed on the culture of one of my backgrounds, which would hopefully lead me to feel a stronger connection with the community. The first floor of the museum featured an exhibit, Stratton Doyle Hancock Confronts Philip Guston, that explored the works of Philip Guston, a Jewish artist who frequently painted the KKK. One of his paintings, The Studio, made in 1969, surprised me, as it featured a Ku Klux Klan member casually painting himself while smoking a cigarette, surrounded by hues of pink. It wasn't until a couple of days later, when I kept thinking about the painting, that I understood it. The Studio is an honest piece in which Guston confronts himself for conforming to his racist society. Born Philip Goldstein, Guston and his family were often targets of the Ku Klux Klan. The anti-Semitism that he had experienced in his youth led him to change his last name from Goldstein, a common Jewish last name, to Guston, to hide his Jewish identity and escape from anti-Semitism. Reflecting on his decision to change his name as an effort to erase his prejudiced identity, Guston depicts himself as a Ku Klux Klan member. In the painting, the Ku Klux Klan member is painting a self-portrait while smoking. Guston has a reputation for painting self-portraits of him smoking. The Ku Klux Klan member in the painting's hand is also red, which is likely a play on the phrase, caught red-handed. All of this links the Ku Klux Klan member in the painting to Guston himself. After solving the mystery, I finally realized why this painting lingered in my mind. The painting almost perfectly pictured my unruly journey seeking community. Similar to my own experience, Guston felt that he needed to change himself to be accepted. Although I wasn't ready to give up my goal to find community, I started to realize that my current strategy was fallible. After I visited the Jewish Museum, I met with the rabbi of my congregation, Rabbi Zakharoff. Given how discouraging my conversation with my uncle was, I was wary of how productive our conversation would be. When I asked the rabbi, what specific moments or events were the most impactful to her in her faith journey, I was expecting to hear about her bat mitzvah or rabbinical school. But to my surprise, she shared with me 2 distinct moments she had experienced in her youth. When she was 8 years old, she had asked her mother, "Is Jesus the Son of God?" Her mother, a Catholic, paused and responded, "Your religion teaches no." Rabbi Zakharoff interpreted this moment as her mother showing deep respect for her and her religion, since she wasn't imposing her own beliefs on her daughter and was honoring her daughter's Jewish identity. Another pivotal moment in the rabbi's faith journey was when someone had told her, "You're not Jewish because your mother isn't Jewish." Rabbi Zakharoff explained to me that it felt as if the community was rejecting me. Not only could I relate to the rabbi's experience of being raised in a multicultural household and an encounter with someone discrediting my Jewish identity, but I also related to the rabbi's feeling of abandonment by the community for aligning with 2 different cultures. However, the rabbi embraced her life experiences growing up in an interfaith household and decided that she was going to be proud of her background and practice Judaism the way she wants to, despite what others might expect a rabbi to. She felt lucky to be from an interfaith family and will sometimes go to church with her mother to support her. Discussions within Rabbi Zakharoff's own family inspired the interfaith work she does today, which seeks to bring people together from different faiths to find common ground, while also celebrating our differences. My conversation with Rabbi Zakharoff exposed my flawed and rigid outlook on becoming a part of a community. I now understand that I should be proud of being a fusion of both of my backgrounds, instead of trying to box myself into one identity or the other. When I talked with Rabbi Zakharoff, I discovered a deeper understanding of community. Far below the surface, I found someone who owned their differences and proudly told their own story. 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were provided the ability to create belief systems and stories. Their belief systems and stories were molded after their life experiences and hardships. Our capacity to be imaginative and bring together large masses of people has proven to be a skill ingrained in our DNA that has contributed to our success as a species. It is important for us as Homo sapiens to continue to exercise our competence at sharing authentic ideas, to live lives that are true and honest to ourselves. By telling our own unique stories, we find community. I realized that when I felt the most a part of a community, I honored both sides of my background. Next time we're in a quandary where you're not sure where to sit, remember to be authentic to your own personal story. Instead of giving into pressure to sit at the restrictive and limiting lunch tables, ask yourself if these jejune traits truly define who you are as a person. The truth is that the narrow narratives that lunch tables create fail to capture our complexity and oversimplify who we are as individuals. By analyzing the history of our species, deconstructing a painting, and engaging with someone who was able to merge both sides of our heritage, I revised my rigid outlook. I urge you as well to reject the cliche lunch tables you encounter in your everyday lives, whether that is political affiliation, economic status, race, and any other group identity, to confidently embrace your own distinct narrative. Instead of letting others define your identity, think outside the box and create your own definition. Thank you.
Thank you, Soon Min. Next, we have Isabel Verhav presenting Camp, a place where kids can grow.
I was driving in the car at 9 years old, and I had never been alone from my parents for a long period of time. In a couple of hours, I would be in an unknown place where I would stay for nearly a month. I felt jittery, but excited at the same time, which I'm sure you all have experienced before. When I stepped out of the car, I took some photos, hugged my parents, and left their arms, ready to start my summer at Kenwood Camp. As I was led to my cabin, I saw kids running around, hugging each other and laughing. But what if I couldn't make friends as they had? When I arrived at my bunk, I saw a group of girls who were sitting on the cabin porch making bracelets. And, to my surprise, they immediately welcomed me. The very next day, I had already made a best friend who I felt as if I had known forever. And that might sound crazy to you, but this truly illustrates the power of camp to me. I have gained countless life skills from camp, some as small as folding my own clothes. But camp provides more than just that. It allows for the growth for all the parts of a child. It gives children social connections, a safe space, an ability to take risks, and more. Connecting with the other campers is a key factor of the camp experience. In some ways, it can feel like a social experiment, getting diverse individuals playing and living together for weeks on end. In time, those individuals change and evolve together. There's actually research behind this. It's called the stages of group development. Bruce Tuckman, an American psychologist, is credited with coming up with these 5 stages. These stages can be seen in all types of group activities and show the process of how a group connects. This idea can also be applied to camp. When you first walk into the bunk, you start to form connections. But as you spend a few more days with your bunkmates, you start the process of storming, which is when you start to disagree. The next step is norming, where the group starts to finally connect. And this leads me to my last 2 steps, which are performing and adjourning, where the group reaches its peak and then says goodbye. You might be thinking, how does this relate to camp? It does though, because at camp, you are learning how to collaborate and work as a team, which is hard to recreate anywhere else at this age. Camp is based around teamwork and connection, and in some schools, that might not be the main focus. The interactions you experience when at camp will also help you in the future. It is important for children to develop certain life skills without the intervention of their parents. For example, being able to resolve issues or fights, which are what you deal with daily when you are at camp. You learn to meet new people, accept differences, and end the summer with a group of close friends. There isn't going to be a time in your life when you meet someone who is exactly the same as you, or someone you fully agree with. So camp can help you or your kids build on social skills that will be helpful in the real world, like participating in group projects, talking to new people, and being more adaptable to different environments. Now, I want you to imagine you at a place where you could be yourself, do your favorite activities, and be with your friends. Camp especially helps children to find out who they are and to be their most authentic version of themselves. At camp, I'm friends with people I never would be friends with at school. And I tried things I never would do at home, like tennis, which I normally wouldn't consider doing. If any of you have ever been through a rough time in your life, you know that when you are finally able to find your happy place, whether it is physical or mental, you feel pure joy. What if we could give everyone their happy place? The key to that is, you guessed it, camp. Even 70% of parents agree that summer camp gives their children confidence. And 92% of campers say that they feel better about themselves after camp. This information may be shocking to you because it sounds insane that just a few summers at camp could change how you view yourself. If you've ever been to camp, though, hearing these facts makes sense because you know the very real effect of it. Knowing that I have a place to go every summer where I can just be me is the best feeling in the world. In a safe space, you should also be comfortable enough to take risks. Since camp is judgment-free, it helps kids as it gives them the power to take risks and overcome fears. I want to start off by telling you a story one of my teachers told me. My teacher works at a camp over the summer, and he told me about one of his campers who has autism. The boy's parents were terrified when it came to him getting in the water. He at first started with baby steps, but soon enough, he was swimming in the lake. The boy took the risk of getting in the lake and ended up loving it. The greatest risk is not taking one. And I, too, have taken that statement into account, and I've been able to work with my fears at camp. I developed a fear of bugs during elementary school, and when I first went to camp, I freaked out every time I saw a bug in the cabin. I probably annoyed nobody. One time, I even sprayed bug spray inside the whole bunk. Although I'm still nervous when around insects, camp exposed me to my fear, and in a way, made me comfortable with it. I want to take a quick detour here and tell you about one of my most memorable experiences in nature. I don't know the specific time, but there was a point where I realized I was fully surrounded by the woods, and the joy I felt was incredible. It was a cold day in Lake Placid, and I was with one of my hockey teammates, and we decided to do a hike before we left our tournament. Near the top, there was a break in the trees, and we could see all the mountains around us. I literally gasped. I was so amazed. All I could do was stare out into the distance. And you can get that feeling every day at camp, even if your camp isn't in nature exactly. While most traditional camps are located in natural environments, there are still camps that give children a different environment from their home, even if they aren't in nature. Camp gets kids outside, but it also gets them away from technology. Now, this might make you a bit uncomfortable, but how many hours do you spend on your phone each day? The average person spends around 4 to 5 hours a day on their phone. Let's do some math now. If you go to camp for 4 weeks like I did, you would get around 126 hours back that you would have lost to your phone. Being away from your phone for a month is pretty much the worst thing that could happen to a teenager. But the benefits of less screen time are clear, since a study found that kids with less screen time have better sleep. And if they spend more time outdoors, they have their memory improved by 28%. And I'm sure that's what helped me memorize this speech. Camp gives children freedom from their devices and a chance to explore areas that aren't similar to where they live normally. Each summer, the final few days of camp are filled with energy and spirit. The last day, though, is when it becomes real. You pack your bags and sit with your friends, and the cleaning process is long as you wait for your parents to arrive. And you are unsure whether you should be happy to see them or sad to go. When you finally see your parents, they overload you with questions. What were your favorite activities? Who are your friends? All you do is smile because camp is unexplainable. It needs to be experienced for them to understand. As you drive away from home, you are already planning for next summer. I want you to decide to send your kid to camp because it will benefit them. Whether or not you are doing that, instead you can give the gift of camp to another child. Throughout the year, I've been working with the organization Scope that sends kids from low-income families to camp. I heard about Scope my first summer at Kentwood, and during the school year, I crafted my own stationery to raise money for the organization. As the listeners of this talk, I want you to know that you have the power to make a difference for children. And even if camp is not in the picture for you or your children, getting outdoors, working overcome fears, and stepping outside of your comfort zone are still things you can apply to your own life. Camp taught me about the importance of taking a step back from my phone and having a safe place to go to. It is an experience that provides growth in all the areas of a child. It gives them best friends, new skills, and memories that will last forever. Thank you.
Great job, Isabel. Our next presenter is Riva Doshi with Pioneering the Future, a guide to forward thinking.
To begin, let's start with a story. I know this happens to every kid, at least those with pushy moms. It was winter, and my mom pops a question. The question that I dread every year. What camps do you do this summer? And I answer with the same reply. I don't know, summer's still 6 months away. She always says that the costs are cheaper, early bird sales and all of that. But I'm too busy as it is, dealing with things right now. Like I said, the summertime is still far away, so I don't bother myself deciding what to do then, because I'm still figuring out what to do this weekend. But I get why she does this. She's simply thinking ahead, planning, in order to make it easier for herself, and her bank account, of course. A lot of people, and her bank account, of course. You may not realize it, but we think ahead all the time, in multiple different ways and situations. Today, I'm going to talk to you about forward thinking, how it keeps you less stressed, more prepared, in order, and finally, the steps for how you can start thinking ahead. Forward thinking can be small or big, depending on the situation. It can be small by simply just choosing what you're going to wear. Look at what you're wearing tonight. Did you throw it on 5 minutes before you left, hurrying here in a rush? Or did you know what you were going to wear since yesterday, your outfit all ready to go? Many of you probably just figured it out moments before, which is the opposite of forward thinking. On a much larger scale, making a life-changing decision, such as choosing what major you want to pursue in college, requires some forward thinking. I think ahead about this big time. I want to be a lawyer when I grow up, so I've done multiple things in order to prepare myself, starting from an early age. The first thing I did to prepare was go to camp, mock trial, and the criminal justice system. And let me tell you, it was perfect. I learned so much that I think could really help me later in life. I even made some new friends. Secondly, and most recently, I shadowed and interviewed actual lawyers. I asked each of them a set of questions in which I learned how being a lawyer works in the real world. I even received some advice, including preparation on joining certain clubs. Finally, I completed a project in which I researched an experience that really happened to a lawyer. By doing all of this, I was able to understand what it's actually like to be a lawyer. This didn't change my views about becoming one at all. In fact, it reassured me and made me confident that I was on the right track, that this is the right thing for me. Even though you may not realize it, we think ahead almost every day in multiple different situations. Some of you may be utilizing calendars, studying for a test, or even going Black Friday shopping for a Christmas gift. These are all instances when we're thinking ahead. But why do we do this? How does thinking ahead help us? One of the 3 main benefits to forward thinking is keeping you prepared. If you prepare yourself correctly in advance, then you'll be all set for whatever it was that you were preparing for. So, let's say that you have a soccer match tomorrow, and you're really nervous. The first thing that you do to prepare was something that you've been doing all along. Practice. You've been working really hard because you know you want to win this. You know how to do all the different shots and blocks, ensuring that you're ready for whatever is to happen at the game. You also know that it's going to be a long tournament, so you bring lots of food for the entire day in case you get hungry. You also check the weather, and it's hot. So of course, you bring lots of water and drinks to keep you hydrated. Taking all these actions gets everything set and ready to go, and ensures that you have a better approach to tomorrow's game, one that you were so worried about only moments before. Forward thinking actually ensures that you are not new to the experience. so that you, your mind, and your body are aware of what is going to happen next. Thinking ahead also keeps you organized, or in order. This makes sure that you're not a hot mess. Sometimes when I'm planning something, I like to write it all down, so I never forget anything or miss anything big. Frankly speaking, when I was planning and writing this speech, I had so many ideas for what I could say. They were all over the place, new ones sparking up here and there. I was so scared of losing any of them, so I knew I had to keep my thoughts safe somewhere. I didn't end up using every one, but it was really helpful when the time came to need them. Being organized lets you know what's coming next, in case anything needs to change in the future. It essentially maps out the path for you. Thinking ahead also reduces your stress levels. Although forward thinking can seem a little difficult at first, because it adds some pressure to the body, it actually makes sure that you are less stressed when the time comes. Basically, it takes away the stress from you during the moment, even though it may cause you to experience some of that stress right now. A lot of people feel more stressed nowadays, especially if you have a packed schedule. If you don't think beforehand, then that can cause you to be forgetful and even give you anxiety. But planning and organizing your needs can definitely help you feel less stressed, which will impact your body in a positive way. Shifting to a neurological perspective, let's take a look at the human brain. The frontal lobe is the part of the brain that is involved in decision making. It can also control your planning, thinking, and organizing. It is shown that an interplay between the brain's prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus allow us to imagine our future outcomes in order to guide our decisions. The prefrontal cortex also thinks about and tests possible situations by using a cognitive map that is located in the hippocampus. When thinking ahead, your brain travels to the time of what you're preparing for, causing us to imagine what might potentially happen. Doing this can help you realize something you hadn't thought of before, including the different situations you might face. Now you know what really goes on in that crazy space up there. So, without further ado, here are the steps for successful forward thinking. First, and most importantly, you have to know what you are thinking and wondering about in your mind. Essentially, what are you preparing for? Second, you want to take in all the different factors, aspects, and information that can likely help you make your final decision, or your following actions. For instance, let's say that your friend's birthday party is this weekend. You know who, your friend, what, a slumber party, where, their house, when, Saturday night, and why. To celebrate their birthday, of course. Third, you want to start thinking about possible situations that could take place in different cases. A good idea is to create the list of the pros and cons of any situation that you might be stuck in. Your pajamas could get dirty, so you pack an extra pair. Doing this can help you see a new sense of things, which could even alter your ultimate decision. Fourth, while considering all of these things, you should be using your intuition. What feels right? I want you to listen to your gut, but make sure it's listening to what you need. It's okay to have multiple things prepared, as anything could happen. In fact, the more prepared, the better. We have now reached the last stage, or the end goal. So, the only thing left to do is to prepare. My mom always told me to be one step ahead in life, and I think that that is really important because it can help us become better versions of ourselves, affecting and impacting the body in a positive way. I implement this practice every single day, and I hope that you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Riva. Up next is Advocating for Animals in the Age of AI, presented by Ayana Hubert.
I would like you all to close your eyes and imagine you're in a cage, 4 feet by 6 feet, and all you see are people staring at you, coming in and coming out. It's noisy and frightening in the shelter. You're squished up against other animals with just a little bit of light coming from the outside. This cold, restricted space has been your home for the past several months. You remember, right, that the third week in, you had lost all emotion. Now, I want you all to open your eyes. This is the reality of shelter nowadays. Over 6.3 million companion animals enter shelters each year. Of that, almost 50% were strays and 30% were abandoned by their owners. These animals can stay up to many years in shelters, and sadly, more and more animals enter than get adopted or fostered. But what if we could change the dynamics? How? What if we could predict human behaviors and better still control them to make impacts that can make a huge impact on reducing the number of animals left in shelters each year? Today I will share with you my research, which consisted from looking at animals in shelters to the challenges faced. Additionally, I will share with you how artificial intelligence could possibly make a difference. But to truly understand the dynamics of the shelter, let me take you on a journey where I first began by visiting some local shelters, like St. Hubert's Animal Welfare Center. When I first entered the doors, I couldn't wait to get my paws on these furry friends. I thought I'd be greeted full of colorful walls and rainbows, and that my time here would change the world for these animals. I was optimistic and yet possibly a little bit naive. I had the privilege of interviewing Ms. Pochiak, the humane educator at the site, and hearing her share the valuable insights into the daily operations, and most importantly, the challenges faced. Challenges like the constant need for adoptive homes, and overpopulation being a persistent issue. These challenges seemed so overwhelming. It made me realize that it would take more than just me and a few and-loving devoted volunteers to change the world for these animals. When I was exiting the shelter, I felt a pit in my stomach. Even though it made me feel good that I volunteered, I didn't feel like I made much of a difference. However, having the chance to speak with Ms. Pochiak made me realize that to make a difference, I had to tell others, like I am with you all today. My next interview was with Ms. Elda Lambert, who has supported animal shelters by conducting animal care presentations in low-income areas for her surrounding communities. Her responsibilities included socializing with cats and dogs, and making sure that her community was educated in the basics of pet care. She explained to me that a typical day for her was rescuing cats and dogs, and sometimes even the involvement of animal patrol officers in the case of abandoned animals. What I did not realize, though, is that they are brought to closed admission shelters, which only accept animals with specific requirements, compared to regular shelters, which will accept any type of animal. Imagine, this poor animal who just needs a roof over their head has been neglected and turned away. Let me tell you, you need to be thick-skinned to turn away an animal. So that is why there is a huge need for people to foster and adopt. However, even if they are brought to closed admission shelters, they are faced with overcrowdment, especially in large shelters like Newark. Managing so many animals can be complicated due to the high financial costs, which is why they heavily rely on fundraisers, donations, and grants, which aren't always easy to acquire. So, with all this information in hand, I began to think, well, what can I do that is innovative and different? Artificial intelligence is a field of computer science focused on creating machines that perform tasks typically requiring human intelligence. This is where I began to think, well, AI could be a game changer in animal shelters. One way AI can help is by enhancing reach to potential adopters and fosters. For example, AI can take messy, handwritten notes and turn them into clean text profiles, which can then generate accurate and engaging bios for awaiting adopters and fosters. So, how about this? A user-friendly app that can target and reach potential adopters and fosters through personalized and efficient campaigns. This technology can help assist in understanding what attracts certain adopters to fosters, which can then provide valuable insights into increasing adoption rates. Therefore, artificial intelligence can help animal shelters make sure that potential adopters are the right fit for certain animals, creating it as a preventative tool when it comes to adopting a pet. Additionally, AI can track vaccination timelines, intake and outtake schedules, the length of stay, and even automated feedback based on the animal's behaviors in shelters. Therefore, AI is a valuable tool that can bring innovation and better outcomes, overall making it a win-win situation. It has potential to make a difference if it's put in the right way, the right time, and in the right place. So, to conclude, here's how you can become an animal advocate. Volunteer, donate to your local shelters, support animal rights groups, and of course, adopt and foster. Be compassionate and empathetic. Animals big or small need legal protection to prevent against animal cruelty. Be aware, know how to source animal cruelty, and source neighborhood watch groups and organizations to participate and volunteer. Learn about AI. Pitch the ideas to others. Communicate and convince others it is a valuable tool in animal shelters. Now, I want you all to close your eyes once more and imagine that this animal is safe, being loved at this very moment. Be an animal advocate today and start making those positive vibes. Thank you.
Great job, Ayana. Our next presenter is Arvind Rajan with The Secret to Success.
Remember when you had that big performance, a big game, a school play, even a solo at a concert? Do you know what would help make it a success? Well, I do. This secret I'm about to share with you has been utilized by well-known corporate organizations, companies, sports teams, and even famous athletes. This trick I'm about to share has been used by major companies like Google and Apple, and also major athletes like Tom Brady and Michael Jordan. Still don't know what it is yet? Well, if you haven't guessed it, it is strategy. Strategy is something that is needed to succeed in something that you love or even hate. Strategy is a plan of action or policy that is designed to achieve a major or overall aim. Tonight, I'm going to share with you all about strategy, what I learned while playing chess, and how it can be beneficial to you. According to Diane Kudu, a writer for the Harvard Business Review, she states, chess is a language for many executives. We checkmate our opponents, or we just pawns in the game. We think 3 moves ahead. What she is saying is that many executives use the strategy they learn from chess. She also interviewed Garry Kasparov, a chess world champion. He states, success is both in chess and business. It is a game of psychological advantage, where the players rely heavily on their gamesmanship and instincts. Here he emphasizes the importance of mental acuity and forward thinking. One of the main ways to use strategy is planning and preparation. It's essential to enter a game with a plan or strategy. I had to learn this the hard way. Ahead of a match, I relaxed and did not plan ahead. I ate a whole bunch of food drank a whole bottle of Coca-Cola, and let me tell you, I regretted that decision. When I checked the leaderboard, my next opponent was 600 rating points higher than me. And when I got into the game, I got crushed. And she outplayed me. When I tried sacrificing a piece to make a draw, she found the best move in order to convert the advantage to her side. As you can see, that game, I did not have a plan. In fact, I created a disadvantage by eating and drinking too much. But as you can see, losing helped me grow, as I would never make that mistake again. You should always analyze what you learn in a situation and be better prepared for next time. Going forward, I realized about the importance of planning and not to just rest on my laurels of being a good chess player. Quickly learning from my mistake, I went to the next round with a plan. In chess, there are 3 key factors that you should worry about. It is understanding your opponent, anticipating for the bigger obstacles, and understanding the shortcomings of your opposition. These factors can help you get the upper hand when playing in the match. Garry Kasparov also said that you need to make great enemies. Like for him, it is Anatoly Karpov. Playing against strong opponents can help sharpen your abilities. It is not just playing against strong opponents, it's also having a keen understanding of their skills. In one of the games at the tournament, the opponent I was facing was 400 rating points higher than me. Although I didn't have a large wealth of knowledge about her skills beforehand, I did know a few things about her. First, she was confident, so I knew I had to play carefully and consider through each move. Studying her in a previous match, I knew that she played defensively, preventing any early attacks from the opening. With all of this in mind, I come to the game, and then I play my move. In the next couple of moves, I realized that my strategy was correct. I saw that she started playing defensively, and also started checking with her pieces. I also played defensively, and my goal was to wait her out, and this worked. Having an assessment of your opponent beforehand can be a good way for you. Further, it can also help you with life. Take negotiating to buy a house, or just simply negotiating with a sibling on a time on a device. If you know him or her well, you know that giving him or her that extra scoop of ice cream can help you get your ticket to that device. The same can be said when studying for a test. If you anticipate for the harder problems, and be better prepared for them, you know that you'll get a bigger outcome later. I would be remiss to not forget the most important element of chess. That is that the smaller things can lead you to a bigger outcome. This is relevant to our daily choices. Let's say if you had to wear a certain dress for a concert. At first, if you ditch it, it wouldn't be bad. But then later, it would be a big deal, because then you would stick out. Conversely, if we were to spend 10 minutes on exercising or doing our homework earlier, we'd be later set up for success. To conclude, strategy and planning are needed to succeed in something that you love or hate. We can use the game of chess as a metaphor for life. Every small move that we make, whether it's a rook, bishop, knight, or pawn, it'll have a bigger outcome later in the game. The same can be said with life. Every small action or choice we make, it can have a bigger impact in a bigger period of time, unless we strategically move through that task. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind. Next, we have Samantha Fishkoff presenting Leaving an Impression.
Think about someone who has changed your life. Maybe it is a parent, a sibling, a famous athlete or actor, or a really great teacher. I'm sure all of you are picturing someone who you look up to and has made an impact on your life. I've spent a lot of my life looking up to people, but recently I started thinking about who may be looking up to me. Whose life am I making an impact on? While having a role model is very fulfilling, being someone else's role model can shape you even more. Take a moment to think. Are you someone's role model? Do you know what it feels like when someone strives to be like you? I'm going to give you a bit of a model for how this speech will go. We'll start by looking at the different types of peer pressure. Then examine how the people you surround yourself with can influence you. And finally, explore how the people you look up to can impact your life. Peer pressure plays a major role in the decisions we make day in and day out. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines peer pressure as a feeling that one must do the same things as other people in one's age or social group in order to be liked or respected by them. In other words, it's the pressure we feel to do something to fit in. Peer pressure impacts everyone. It doesn't discriminate based on age, race, or religion. This is because peer pressure is the result of a chemical reaction that occurs in all of our brains. According to an article from Frontiers for Young Minds, the main chemical that triggers the feeling of peer pressure is testosterone, which is a hormone that exists in every one of us. Testosterone impacts the reward centers of our brains, which ultimately impacts our behavior. The reward-sensitive parts on the brain focus on receiving rewards, such as doing well in school, finishing a workout, or fitting in. When testosterone levels are high, these sections are more active. This influences people to achieve things that will make them appeal to their peers. I'm sure some of the people here associate the term peer pressure with a negative connotation. This is because the term is commonly used in the context of children making bad decisions, such as doing drugs, drinking alcohol, or committing acts of violence. But the reality is, peer pressure can also be positive. Peer pressure can even be rephrased as model encouragement when it is used with good intentions. An instance where this term can be used is when my friends influenced me to clean my room. I'm a type B person, not the blood type, but the personality type, meaning I am very unorganized. Throughout my childhood, I've had a very messy room, a tendency to be late for everything, and poor study habits. The majority of my friends are the complete opposite. If you went into their rooms, there would be no clothes on their floors. They study religiously, and they are reliably punctual. My mom has refused to come into my room on numerous occasions because she claims that the messiness overwhelms her, and recently my friends started to agree. The positive peer pressure from my tidy friends got to me and prompted me to make a change. Their constructive criticism of my organizational skills, or lack thereof, worked like a charm. I even worked hard and improved my study habits and started arriving at things on time. All because of my friends. My parents' constant saying, "If you have a clear room, you will have a clear mind," finally made sense. Now, I have another friend, Charlotte. She is a spectacular dancer and has been assistant teaching hip-hop for young kids at the Connection. She always spoke about how much fun it was, so I signed up to assistant teach ballet and jazz at the Connection in September. I was excited because I do theater, so I have some dance experience. I'm extroverted and good with kids. So if you need a babysitter, find me after this presentation. But to be completely honest, at first I was only doing this to achieve my 20 community service hours. As much as I loved the girls, I honestly dreaded going to dance. I had a bad attitude and was always prepared to spend the hour bored. But over time, as I connected more with the girls, I began to enjoy dance more. I started to have a more positive attitude and looked forward to Mondays when I got to be at dance. When I started to be more excited and upbeat, the girls reciprocated the same type of energy. This made me think about teachers. From my own experience, the teachers I've had who were very passionate about what they taught made more of a lasting impact on me than those who were less so. The best teachers are the ones who love what they do. In order to truly make an impact, do something that relates to your interests because it will give you the drive to accomplish more. As I mentioned earlier, peer pressure and role models go hand in hand. Because of the positive peer pressure I received to start teaching dance, I was able to be a role model for these little girls. People often forget that it is not only important to have role models, but also to be role models. Seeing the impact I had on the girls was extremely rewarding. There is a feeling you get when people look up to you, deep down in your stomach, which brings you tremendous joy. The girls at dance would ask me to hold their hands, tie their shoes, and sit next to them, all because they look up to me. Although I'm not technically their peer, as I've about 8 years on them, it is clear that peer pressure was at play. They were changing their behavior to impress me. Yes, me. I was their peer, indirectly making an impression on them and shaping their behavior. I could tell that the testosterone was circulating around their brains because they were being their best selves, which is what I was trying to model. I hope what you all could take away from this speech, what I was able to take away from my experience, is the importance of role models and positive peer pressure. When you surround yourself with a good crowd, they will leave positive impacts on you. But more importantly, you can be a role model by really knowing your skill sets and using them to benefit others. It is important to remember that not everyone makes an impact the same way. Your individuality is what makes your impact special. Thank you.
Wonderful, Samantha. Our last speech of the evening, Are You Losing Your Spark?, will be presented by Amishi Gupta.
Are there still dreamers in the audience? Those who look up at the moon and think about touching its surface? Those who marvel at the Aston Martin downtown? Those who believe? No. This is reality. Whether you're a middle-aged woman with 2 kids or 13 and attending LCJSMS, who cares about dreams, ambition, or whatever the heck else? Even among the enriched minds I sit with in my math class, I hear more gossip than curiosity. Nobody cares because nobody has that spark. The oldest have lost hope, and the youngest are brain rotted. Yet, although it may seem like there's no spark among individuals in today's society, there's still a slight ember that burns, that we can turn into an even greater spark if we just stoke it. And that is what I'm here to bring to light tonight. The spark is getting dimmer, especially in my generation. The spark was when you were 5 years old and your eyes would light up every time someone asked you what you wanted to be when you grow up, or you felt you had it in you, the ability. Genuine curiosity, willingness to do what you want to do. Now, it feels like there aren't many of those things. Now, it feels like life is just going on, and you're not really conscious enough to know what's happening. Why is it our spark is gradually dwindling? Unfortunately for my generation, we have to hear a pill we've had to swallow too many times. It's because of that phone. The phone's not the problem. It's the influence that is. The need for instant gratification that forms from the social media addiction is a main cause of the problem. In the year 2000, the average adult attention span was 13 seconds. But in the rise of the internet in 2015, the average attention span was 8.25 seconds. And 10 years later, there isn't much improvement. For reference, a goldfish attention span is 9 seconds. So it's simple. We are all goldfish. Social media has made us all into goldfish. Because the internet is a world where if something is not of your specific interest and tailored taste, a simple scroll from your fingers can make you forget about it in less than a second. That would be a lot more convenient if it was present in the real world. But it's not. And that's why your kids don't want to leave this simple, brain-rotted, addicting world. Speaking of parents, I've been talking to the teens so far, so let's talk to you. Don't ask them yet, but what does your child like to do? Or what are they interested in? Let's think simpler. What do you see them doing most of the time? What do they talk about with you? If you think about it, it's always, in math class we learned for the sake of answering your question, or what's for dinner? And it's those responses that make you think, I swear I remember raising my child with a personality. What I'm trying to say is that you're not a bad parent. It's that there's no understanding. These hollow conversations are part of the reason why parents don't understand their kids and kids don't understand their parents. There's no depth in the conversations between parent and child. It's unfortunate to admit, but it's because there's no passion. A big part of being human is being passionate. But are we still human if we don't possess that? Because now, scrolling is the only thing worth giving time to because it's so comfortable. I am a diligent straight A student. And yes, I do sound a bit conceited, but hear me out. I am very focused on school, and I hold my grades in the highest regard. But as shameful as I feel admitting it, I do drop studying and homework to scroll on YouTube endlessly. We're cursed. Cursed with this free, endless comfort and free, endless dopamine. That if someone with genuine drive loses that drive to instant gratification, you can see why many believe the future of this world is so doomed. Everyone says that as the next generation will be the most progressive and liberal generation. However, when I go out into today's culture, I see youth today being influenced by classmates and friends who only promote nonchalance and insensitivity, but isn't what passion, empathy, and deep emotion, what makes us what we think of ourselves as the superior species with an advantage over AI. When youth today is forced into a life of only nonchalance and indifference, how will we produce good quality work that will advance our world? How will we work with genuine passion and rigor when we won't care? How can we find the happiness that our world has lost when our only happiness is being a goldfish all day? And in light of me saying this, it raises the big question we all want the answer to. How do we get our spark back? There have been times like today when the world isn't really moving anymore because no one wants to change it or see much reason in doing anything really. The only reason the world has been moving all this time is because of extraordinary people. People with great talent and brilliance. And today's world is no short of them. But great talent and brilliance is like a candle. A candle that definitely has the ability to burn and illuminate the room for very long. But it has no flame. So how can its strong wax bring light if it has no flame? How can any normal candle bring light if it has no flame? Which brings me to my next point. That great talent and brilliance is beneficial to society's advancement. But people who possess it don't always become wildly successful. I was pretty mind-blown a few months ago when I found out that Edison, Thomas Edison, had been homeschooled for most of his schooling because his teacher gave up on him. It's the same Edison who invented the light bulb, the one shining on me right now, the one you turn on and off every day. I was also pretty shocked to find out that Albert Einstein didn't start talking until he was 4, when most babies would start talking at 2 years of age. It's the same Einstein who created the theory of relativity, and yet he was still called a late bloomer, a phrase which we all so hate, for 2 years of his life. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of university to create Facebook without any generational wealth. What do all these people have in common? They had the spark. If Einstein had learned all this bookish scientific knowledge in school, but never found his passion and genuine curiosity in science, people would look at you like you're crazy if you spouted out E equals mc squared, a fundamental equation if you forgot. No matter the person, no matter who you are, what skills you were born with, or how you started off, what you really need is passion, ambition, and grit. If those same people had the same talent and brilliance, but lacked the enthusiasm, would they have achieved the same? Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life, highlights the importance of the Japanese principle of ikigai, which are that your field must include your passion, what you love and believe in, and your ambition, what you chase and dream about. Which is how people like them who were able to be the best of their time, got to be the best of their time. Find your passion and ambition and let it consume you. Even when someone is just starting out and their apartment is cold from an unpaid heat bill, they still feel warm at heart, which is how people with low-paying jobs like artists and authors and actors feel so at peace and satisfied, while people with successful high-paying jobs feel so unfulfilled. They followed their ikigai, and they got excited. Remember when you were a little kid? I do. Times were simple. You get excited over something ridiculously simple like apples. I mean, some 10-year-old that looks weirdly similar to me does. Times aren't simple anymore because we've made them so complicated. School is cursed. Work is the worst. 8 hours, or 1/3 of our day, is immersed with the feeling of wanting to burst. This horrid feeling, how do we fight it? Get excited. Get excited by gold sunsets. Get excited by seeing a ladybug, by grabbing a coffee with your friends, or by seeing the building that was being constructed for years finally built. Be excited to see your friends. Be excited to go to school or work. Be excited to learn Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, because he's a pretty cool dude, especially for doing all that in the 19th century. Be excited that you're learning geometry and math, because these just might be the supplement to get you into your dream school once you ace AP Trig. Or you might use these formulas when you get furniture for your first apartment. Be excited that you're here today to hear the ideas of the new generation instead of, yeah, some kids are yapping about something and I'm giving my support. The way you see depends on your eyes. If you look in the beauty in the mundane instead of the ugly in the grayness, I promise you, the sun will shine a bit brighter, your smile will be wider, and the first spring flowers will look a little more colorful. Live a life you're excited by. But don't be complacent. What I also mean by living a life you're excited by is don't be stuck with mediocrity. Be ambitious. Ambition requires passion. And I know I've said that a lot. But they have passion because they have a reason to live, a reason to work hard, a reason to get up every morning. Ambitious people don't float around in life, waiting for their due date, wondering when they'll expire. Ambitious people have hope. And hope is what you see every morning when you wake up, not the ceiling. Hope is a vision, a beacon. Ambitious people run towards their beacon every day, never losing sight of it. Don't wallow around in the void of life. Do more. Be more. Look for more out of our small gray life. When you have a direction, and it's a journey you find is not only fulfilling, but satisfactory to your mind and soul, you live a life you're excited by. And finally, what I've been meaning to say for the past 10 minutes is, if life was a Bollywood movie, everything turns out all right in the end. And if it doesn't, then it's not the end yet. Be a dreamer, find your spark, and stay gold. Thank you.
Great job, Amishi, and congratulations to all of our presenters. You've done a wonderful job, and we hope you feel a sense of pride. On behalf of your TEDx staff, we thank everyone for coming out tonight and wish you all a safe trip home. Thank you.